Hi Year 3, we really hope you enjoyed the first week of home learning all about the Egyptians. We're going to carry on with this theme for this week for our literacy text, which is Rhodopis and the Red Slippers, which is an Egyptian myth. Hope you enjoy it. In the last days of ancient Egypt, not many years before the country was conquered by the Persians, it was ruled by a pharaoh called Amasis, so he could strengthen his country against the threat of invasion by Cyrus of Persia, who was conquering lots of other countries. He welcomed as many Greeks as wished to trade with or settle in Egypt, and gave them a city called Naucratis to be entirely their own. In Naucratis, not far from the mouth of the Nile, there lived a wealthy Greek merchant called Charakas, whose true home was in the island of Lesbos, but he'd spent most of his time trading with Egypt, and in his old age he settled at Naucratis. One day when he was walking in the marketplace, he saw a great crowd gathered round the place where the slaves were sold. Out of curiosity, he pushed his way into the middle and found that everybody was looking at a beautiful girl who was about to be sold. She was obviously Greek, with white skin and cheeks like blushing roses, and Charakas caught his breath, for he had never seen anyone so lovely. Consequently, when the bidding began, Charakas was determined to buy her, and being one of the wealthy merchants in Naucratis, he did so without much difficulty. When he had bought the girl, he discovered that her name was Rhodopis, and she had been carried away from her home in the north of Greece when she was only a child. They had sold her to a rich man who employed many slaves on the island of Samos, and she had grown up there, one of her fellow slaves being an ugly little man called Aesop, who was always kind to her and told her the most entrancing stories and fables about animals and birds and human beings. But when she was grown up, her master wished to make some more money out of a beautiful girl, and he sent her to the rich Naucratis to be sold. Charaxus listened to her tale and pitied her deeply. Indeed, very soon he became quite besotted with her. He gave her a lovely house to live in, with a garden in the middle of it and slave girls to attend on her. He heaped her with presents of jewels and beautiful clothes, and spoiled her as if she had been his own daughter. One day, a strange thing happened to Rhodopis as she was bathing in her marble-edged pool in her secret garden. The slave girls were holding her clothes and guarding her jewels and her rose-red slippers, of which she was particularly proud, while she lazed in the cool water. Suddenly, when all seemed quiet and peaceful, an eagle came swooping down out of the clear blue sky. Down, straight down, as if to attack the little group by the pool. The slave girls dropped everything they were holding and fled shrieking to hide among the trees and flowers of the garden. And Rhodopis rose from the water and stood with her back against the marble fountain at one end of it, gazing with wide, startled eyes. But the eagle paid no attention to any of them. Instead, it swooped right down and picked up one of her rose-red slippers. Then it soared up into the air again on its great wings and, still carrying the slipper, flew away to the south over the valley of the Nile. Rhodopis wept at the loss of her rose-red slipper, feeling sure that she would never see it again, and sorry also to have lost anything that Charaxus had given her. But the eagle seemed to have been sent by the gods. He flew straight up the Nile to Memphis and then swooped down towards the palace. At that hour, Pharaoh Amasis sat in the great courtyard doing justice to his people and hearing any complaints that they wished to bring. Down over the courtyard swooped the eagle and dropped the rose-red slipper of Rhodopis into Pharaoh's lap. The people cried out in surprise when they saw this, and Amasis too was taken back. But as he took up the little rose-red slipper and admired the delicate workmanship and the tiny size of it, he felt that the girl for whose foot it was made must indeed be one of the most loveliest in the world. Indeed, Amasis the pharaoh was so moved by what had happened that he issued a decree. Let my messengers go forth through all the cities of the delta and, if need be, into Upper Egypt to the very borders of my kingdom. Let them take with them this rose-red slipper which the divine bird of Horus has brought to me, and let them declare that her from whose foot this slipper came from be the bride of the pharaoh. So they set forth from Memphis and went by the way of Heliopolis and Tanis and Canopus until they came to Naucratis. Here they heard the rich merchant Charakas and of how he'd bought the beautiful Greek girl in the slave market, and how he was lavishing all his wealth upon her as if she had been a princess put in his care by the gods. So they went to the great house beside the Nile and found Rhodopis in the quiet garden beside the pool. When they showed her the rose-red slipper, she cried out in surprise that it was hers. She held out her foot so they could see how well it fitted her. Then the messengers knew that this was the girl whom the pharaoh had sent them to find, and they knelt before her and said, The good god Pharaoh Amasis bids you come with all his speed to his great palace at Memphis. There you should be treated with honour and given a high place in his royal house of women. For he believes that Horus, the son of Isis, and Osiris sent that eagle to bring the rose-red slipper and cause him to search for you. Such a command could not be disobeyed. Rhodopis bade farewell to Chericus, who was torn between joy at her good fortune and sorrow at his loss, and set out for Memphis. When Amasis saw her beauty, he was sure that the gods had sent her to him. He did not merely take her into his royal house of women, he made her his queen and the royal lady of Egypt, and they lived happily together for the rest of their lives. I wonder if you notice any similarities between that story and another fairy tale story that you know. This week, all our home learning activities for literacy are based around this story. So have a look in your home learning pack and you can see a copy of it typed up for you to read yourself, and lots of activities for you to do this week and upload to Seesaw. Me and Sophie can't wait to see what you've done. Have a lovely week.